प्रिपरेशन अगर आप इंग्लिश मीडियम में करना चाहते हैं देन यू आर एट द राइट प्लेस. चेंज द मीडियम फॉर यूपीएससी इज द नेम ऑफ द चैनल. डू सब्सक्राइब दिस चैनल एंड शेयर अमंग ऑल द हिंदी मीडियम एस्पिरेंट्स. जिससे ज़्यादा जो हिंदी मीडियम के एस्पिरेंट्स हैं जो अपने मीडियम को हिंदी मीडियम से इंग्लिश मीडियम में शिफ्ट करना चाहते हैं जिससे कि उनके सिलेक्शन के चांसेस और ज़्यादा इनहांस हो सके, इंक्रीज हो सके. राइट नाउ वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन दैट मस्ट बी कमिंग टू योर माइंड इज दैट इज इट रियली पॉसिबल टू चेंज द मीडियम फ्रॉम हिंदी मीडियम टू इंग्लिश मीडियम? Yes, it is possible to change the medium. Definitely you can change, but how? Now, the next yet very important yet very pertinent question must be coming to your mind is that yes, if it is possible, then how it is? So, because I have studied throughout in Hindi medium from the first class to the intermediate or even to the graduation, is it still really possible to change the medium from Hindi medium to English medium? Yes. Now, how to, right? How? What one needs to do in order to change the medium from Hindi medium to English medium, right? So, first of all, जो भी हिंदी मीडियम के एस्पिरेंट्स है ना, यू स्टार्ट लिसनिंग थिंग्स मोर एंड मोर इनटू इंग्लिश. तो जितना ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा, सपोज व्हेन यू आर लिसनिंग दिस वीडियो, सपोज दैट यू आर सिटिंग इन अ क्लासरूम, ओके, सपोज दैट यू आर सिटिंग इन अ क्लासरूम ऑफ इंग्लिश मीडियम कोचिंग, राइट, where everything would be spoken in English, okay, and when I will be speaking you or making you understand, like suppose we are going to discuss about this digital personal data protection bill, right? So this is what we are going to discuss today, right? So if I start narrating you in the form of a story, if I tell you this is, so see, I am going to speak very simple English. You just try to understand from my expressions, though I am not visible to you, but just through verbal expressions, the way I am just trying to convey it to you, I just want to make you understand so that you just actually get a habit of understanding and listening things into English, right? So here the first thing, you start listening things more and more into English, and then we're going to write the answers also out of this particular editorial. Suppose you are reading this editorial, okay, you are reading this editorial, so that means आप इस editorial को पढ़ रहे हैं, right? After having read, पढ़ने के बाद, ठीक, after having read this particular editorial, we will be taking out some of the most important points, or we will be taking out some of the most important notes in the form of like this, right? And then we will try to write the answers of this particular kind of, we can say not the question, but we can understand it like an important question that might come into the examination, right? So this is going to be a very very important question. We have to suppose this particular question is going to come into the examination, right? That if someone asks you, write a note about the digital personal data protection bill, right? If someone asks you, write something about, or write whatever you know about the digital personal data protection bill, right? So how you are going to write, right? How you are going to write, what you are going to write. So at least when we will be reading this one paragraph and all these paragraphs, because what I have underlined it also, right? So once we would be able to understand this in the form of story, I think then we would be able to write at least some of the points. And being an Hindi medium student, if you are taking the notes from anywhere, suppose you are reading Hindi text also, right? Suppose you are reading the Hindi book or Hindi magazine, right? So ultimately you will have to take the important notes like this, right? Like 1 point or 2 points, 3 points you'll have to write, and then you'll have to memorize, right? So it is better that you'll start memorizing things into English, right? It will definitely going to help you and will help you to change the medium from Hindi medium to English medium, and will help you also to improve your chances of getting into the civil service examination manifold, right? So let us get started that what this particular editorial is going to be talking about, right? So whenever you read any editorial, whenever you start reading any editorial, the first thing that should come to your mind is that whenever you read, you should read the heading, right? This is the heading. So whenever you are reading the heading of this particular editorial, so you will be having certain kind of idea from here. So like suppose here it is written digital personal data protection bill, right? So once you read this, you will have some kind of idea that okay, this particular editorial must be talking about, or may be talking about, या शायद ये बात कर रहा होगा, मे बी टॉकिंग अबाउट डिजिटल पर्सनल डेटा प्रोटेक्शन. सो हियर व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ द डिजिटल? आई विल बी मेकिंग यू अंडरस्टैंड इन अ वेरी सिंपल इंग्लिश, राइट? व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ डिजिटल? So suppose when you are watching YouTube, okay, if you are watching any video on YouTube, right, so you are digital. Right now you are consuming the digital content, right? Suppose you are ordering some book or something like that for shoe, or anything that you are ordering on Amazon or from the Flipkart or from the Myntra.com, right, or for the Ajio.com, whatever you are ordering. So that means you are doing some digital activity, right? So that means the digital, you are writing something on Facebook, okay, you are running any kind of we can say, let's take an example of the campaign or movement. If you are running on Twitter, so you are writing something, supporting something, retweeting something, right? So that means you are also digital, right? And personal means your personal things. Like suppose you have a pen, okay, so that pen is your personal thing, right? So personal, so something that belongs to you, something that is very closely related to you only, like your name, okay, your address, your date of birth, your gender, okay, your location, right? Your qualification, how you look, how you speak, where do you stay, like everything is very, very personal to you. How many brothers do you have, how many sisters do you have, okay, what are their names, what does your father do, what does your mother do, where do you stay, what kind of profession are you into, right? What are you doing right now? So everything is personal, right? So personally, whatever you are doing on internet basically, right, then that particular data gets, assimilated somewhere, it gets gathered somewhere, right? So to gather, so once that particular data which is related to you, okay, then just to protect that data, that if this particular data should not be poised for any misuse, okay, so protection of that data will be required. So for that this particular bill is coming, right? So now you can understand that this particular bill is going to be talking about something like this, right? Okay, so in a very simple sense I've tried to make you understood this. Okay, so now let us read, and as we will read, I'll try to make you understand with a very simple examples also, so that you could have a better idea of understanding it, and at least you can have certain kind of confidence in you, right? That yes, I can listen in English, I can understand in English, and I can start reading also in Hindi, and then we will be simultaneously, साथ ही साथ, simultaneously we'll start making the notes, and at the end we'll try to practice that how we can form an answer. Okay, so before reading this particular editorial, I have made this question for you guys, right? This is the question. So the question talks about discuss the digital personal data protection bill. Okay, discuss means you'll have to write the positive, negatives, okay, all the points about digital personal data protection bill, right? Keeping in mind threat to transparency and accountability. So suppose your data is get leaked, okay, your data gets leaked. Now what happens? It is very threatening, it is very dangerous for you, for your transparency, okay? And who is going to be accountable, who is going to be responsible for this? The government is going to be responsible, right? And empowerment of the central government. So there must be something would be having in this particular bill, that the government is getting empowered instead of the people should have getting empowered, right? So we'll be talking about this also, and while taking away people's democratic right to seek information. So that means whenever you read about seeking the information, right to seek information, okay, or right to know, or so this particular means right to information, okay, RTI, that was created in 2005, that was enacted in 2005, right? So this is what we have understood. So this is the question that I have written, okay, and then we'll be writing the introduction also, okay, once we'll be reading something, whatever would be required. So I'll be telling you that you can use these points as introductions, then in the main body we will write something, and then at the conclusion or suggestions we'll be doing something, right? So everything will be from this particular paragraph or this particular area, okay, you don't have to go anywhere else, right? So just try to listen, just keep listening this, okay? If you're not able to understand, just listen it once, just listen it, your habit will get developed, because all of a sudden nobody can change from Hindi medium to English medium, or from any language to any other language, right? You need certain actually certain amount of time, right? Like 1 month or 2 months, like, but every single day if you listen, then slowly you will definitely start improving, right? And if you change the medium, your chances will definitely getting increased, because you don't have to go into movement, you don't have to cry over the CSAT or the general studies paper or the reading comprehensions or the way mathematics is being, right? So you'll be able to solve the CSAT questions also, right? Then and you would be able to write the answers also in English, right? So you'll be having a better study material than the Hindi medium, right? And even Vikas Deviketi sir and Munna Patel sir, all of them have said somewhere that if you can prepare, like especially Vikas Deviketi sir has said that if you have even 1% of chances, but like you can start preparing in English medium, then you should definitely go for that, right? So let's get started, and I'm gonna read it, and you should also open the newspaper and just keep listening it, right? So the government is set to introduce the Digital Personal Data Protection DPDP bill in Parliament, right? So it means government is going to put this bill into the Parliament for the discussion or something like that. Okay. The final draft is shrouded in secrecy. So shrouded is means something is like like mingled with, right? Or Hindi में if we say कि घिरा हुआ है, या means ऐसे करके, like surrounded with, okay? So the final bill is surrounded with secrecy, means there are a lot of secrets in that, right? So those secrets has not been revealed to the parliamentarian or even to the parliamentary committee also, right? So that is what the meaning of that the bill is kind of a secret bill, right? Means many parliaments doesn't know about that, what is going to happen in this, right? So last week, opposition members walked out of meeting of the parliamentary standing committee, right? So last week what happened? So like last week something must have happened last week, right? So opposition members means the people, means the parliamentarians or the MPs, okay, of the opposition parties, okay, which are not from the ruling party, right? So they are from the opposition party, so they will be called opposition members, walked out of meeting. So walked out means walked out, they went away, okay, they have left the parliament building, right? They just went, just in a very simple thing, just understand things, right? You have to create a story in your mind, that whatever I'm saying, just try to create a story, pictographic memory, okay? Whatever I'm saying, just try to convert it into a kind of story with the some kind of actually the kind of the buildings of the parliament, that okay, people are coming, means all the parliamentarians are coming from the parliament building outside, okay, they're not actually discussing, right? Okay, so came out of the meeting, and the parliamentary committee, okay, means wherever the meeting was happening of the parliamentary committee, so means opposition members did not attend that, okay, and submitted dissent notes. Means dissent notes means somebody was not agreeing, means all the members, means they were not agreeing to what was written in the bill, okay, in the DPDP bill, right, objecting to the adoption of a report on the DPDP bill. So they were objecting, means they were raising some questions, okay, they were raising some questions on the adoption of a report on the DPDP bill. They claimed that the bill was neither shown to the members nor formally referred to the committee. Okay, so what complaint the members of the parliaments of the opposition parties had was that neither this bill was shown to them, means this bill was not shown to all the parliament members, right, and nor it was submitted to the committee also, right? So they were very angry about it. So that is why they left the parliament building. Okay, means left the parliamentary building means they have just come out of that particular area. All right. So this is what I mean. You just try to create a story. Just imagine the way I'm saying. Okay, there is a parliament building, and that all the parliamentarians are sitting, and this particular bill is actually tabled. Okay, then actually this was not actually shown to all the all the members of the parliament, right? So all of them got angry. So they just walked out. Right, so this is what the meaning of the first paragraph. All right, and the bill was like secret, like so much secret was there, like so much secret, and it was like shrouded with, right? So this is the meaning of this, right? And they just gave the dissent note. So meaning of the dissent notes, like they were not agreeing to it, right? They were disagreeing basically, right? So this is what the meaning of this. In November 2022, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, right? So now you'll have to keep in your mind the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology is related to what? Okay, this particular ministry is dealing with this particular bill. Okay, DPDP bill. That means the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill is being dealt by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, right? So now you can relate this. See, what happens the next is that publicly circulated a draft of the bill for consultation. Means they have just put it on their website so that the people who have the knowledge about it, they can suggest that what it could be better off, right? Or what kind of points needs to be deleted, right? So all these things means the suggestions were welcome on the website, right? So this is what the meaning. Okay, it was fraught with problems. Means fraught with means full of. Okay, so it was fraught with problems. Means there were so many problems in the bill, right? As the opposition members say. Okay, while campaigns and concerned citizens shared their suggestions, means all the campaigns which was happening, right, or the concerned means the citizens who were knowing a little bit about it and they were concerned, like they were worried a little, they shared their suggestions. They have actually given their suggestions. Okay, so MeitY is the short form of the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So MeitY focused primarily on consulting industry. Okay, so MeitY focused primarily consulting industry and big tech companies. So the law, okay, means here the law, that means the bill, that the DPDP bill, okay, this bill, about this bill, the ministry actually concerned or spoke to or actually talked about to the industry. Okay, industry what? The digital industry basically. Okay, and the big tech companies. So what are the big tech companies? So here the tech means technology. So big technology can be like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Geo, right? So these are the companies the ministry has spoken to, right? And that will have, so this particular law, when this will be applied, so it will have a vast ramification. So vast ramification, okay, vast ramification means vast means huge, very big. Okay, vast means very huge, very big. Okay, so vast ramification means the result that will come out of this bill. Once this bill will be implemented, the results that will come, okay, the kind of we'll see the picture after the bill. Okay, what will happen for the information regime? So whenever it is written information regime, so you can equivalent or you can equate it with the DPDP bill, right? With the DPDP bill. Okay, so it is written here and it is written here, same thing. Okay, right? So in the India, and will impact every citizen of the country. So it means this bill is going to impact every citizen of this country, right? Every citizen means none will be left. Okay, in a way. Okay, so do not repeat the errors. So here in this particular paragraphs, something is written about that, something about this bill which was reiterated, okay, which was there, it is being reiterated here again. So that is what the heading of the second paragraph is, that do not repeat the errors. Like suppose you have given the mains, okay, and you might not have studied about the English language paper properly, right? And you have got unfortunately failed into that, right? So I would say to you, do not repeat the errors that you committed in the past attempt or in the last attempt, right? So this is what the meaning of it. Just create a story, okay? So it is imperative. So imperative means necessary, okay, obligatory. So it is imperative that data protection law does not suffer from the infirmities. So infirmities means weaknesses, okay, infirmities means weaknesses, okay. So data protection bill, so it is imperative that the data protection bill or law does not suffer from the infirmities that the previous draft had and safeguards people's fundamental rights. That is both the so it is read like that is okay. That is matlab jo ki. That is matlab jo ki. Okay. That is both the right to information and the right to privacy. Right. So here how we can understand. So here the author wants to say that it is very necessary that the data protection law that we are making, okay, so it should not suffer, means it should not have any weaknesses into them. It means the law should be very much strong. Okay. Okay, it should be very strong law, and it should not be, yeah, and it should not be weak as it was in the past. Okay, and it should provide the safeguards to the people, right? It should give the people safeguards. What kind of safeguard? So that the right to information and the right to privacy of any people in this country should not get abridged by this particular law, right? So this law should not contravene the right to information and the right to privacy, right? So this law should be very good for the people, right? It should be people centric. Okay. So now the Data Protection Bill of 2022 includes a provision to amend the Right to Information Act. Okay, Data Protection Bill of 2022. Okay, means it is being talking about the past year. Okay, includes a provision. So it was first actually it was first being put into the parliament in the November 2022, right? So it includes a provision to amend the Right to Information Act, right? So in 2022, when this bill was about to be presented in the parliament, so it had a provisions, means it had a measure, it had a point kind of thing, okay, in which it was talking about to amend the Right to Information Act. Okay, Right to Information, which was enacted in 2005, right? And what is the role of the Right to Information Act? It has empowered the millions of Indians. Okay, लाखों लोगों को empower किया, सशक्त किया. Okay, it has empowered, means सशक्त किया millions of Indian citizens since its enactment in 2005. So when the Right to Information Act was made in 2005, it is strengthened. Okay, it is strong. It just gave kind of strong feeling to the people of India. Okay, so into this particular this RTI bill. Okay, so the data protection bill that we are making, so in that particular data bill, we are talking to amend, means to bring some changes in the RTI bill, right? So this is what the meaning of this, right? So to effectively hold their governments accountable in a democracy, people need access to information, including various categories of personal data. So if you are living in a democracy, suppose, okay, so government is chosen by the people, right? So people are the supreme here. Okay, people are supreme here. So if we have right to information, so that means if anything wrong is happening in the government and the people are perceiving or feeling or believing, right, so they can file an RTI or the Right to Information Act and hold the government accountable. सरकार को जिम्मेदार ठहरा सकते हैं, right? सरकार को जिम्मेदार ठहरा सकते हैं means to hold the government accountable, right? To hold the government accountable means सरकार को आप जिम्मेदार ठहरा सकते हैं. This is what the meaning in Hindi, right? So इसके लिए it is very necessary, right, to have the RTI. So that means the author is in a way indirectly suggesting that there should not be any changes to be brought into the RTI, right? So here going to be discussed about the next thing is that, yeah, so for example, the Supreme Court of India has held that citizens have a right to know the names of the willful defaulters and details of non-performing assets of the public sector banks. So even the Supreme Court of India, see why this particular paragraph is written from here to here, like why this particular paragraph is written from here to here. It is written because, let me change the color so that you can have all guys can have an idea that why am I talking and highlighting this, right? So yeah, so from here to here, why this particular example is being given by the author? Because the bill, okay, this DPDP bill that we are bringing, so in that bill itself we try or we seek to bring some amendments or bring some changes into the RTI Act. Okay, so now what Supreme Court has said that, for example, the Supreme Court of India has held that citizens have a right to know, means citizens have right to know. Even the Supreme Court has said that. मतलब Supreme Court भी ये कह चुका है that citizens, मतलब जो नागरिक हैं, उनके पास right to know, जानने का अधिकार है. और वो किसका है? द विलफुल डिफॉल्टर. तो जैसे विजय माल्या का नाम हो गया, मेहुल चौकसी का हो गया, नीरव मोदी का हो गया, ठीक है. तो ऐसे जो लोग हैं जो विलफुल डिफॉल्टर हैं, तो इनके नाम को भी हम जान सकते हैं कि हमारी कंट्री में क्या हो. बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली व्हाई यू शुड जस्ट थिंक दैट व्हाई a citizen of India should know or should have the right to know about the willful defaulter. See, if you go to the bank, okay, and you have deposit, suppose like 50,000 rupees, or somebody had like 1 lakh, or somebody had like 5 lakh, okay. So likewise, there are hundreds or thousands of people go to bank and they deposit their money, okay. So bank actually have huge amount of money, like bank or like some suppose like 5,000 crore or 8,000 crore rupees banks, right? And actually, suppose Vijay Mallya have gone to the bank, okay. So Vijay Mallya have gone to the bank and asked for 1,000 crore rupees loans, okay. And the banks have 5,000 crore rupees, and that 5,000 crore rupees is deposited by the citizen of India, Okay, like you have 10,000, I have like 10 lakh, no, somebody has 1 crore, somebody like 2 crore, somebody like, small amount, right? So Vijay Mallya has got like 1,000 crore. Okay. So now what will happen that Vijay Mallya would not pay the interest on the amount that he has taken as a loan from the bank. Right. So now what next will happen? Means they will flee away from the country. They will flee from the country. Okay. भाग जाएंगे देश छोड़ के. They will not repay the loan. So that 1,000 rupees is ultimately of whom? Is ultimately belongs to the people of India, because those, somebody might have deposited like 10,000, somebody might have deposited 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh. So small deposits, collectively called like 5 crore, 10,000 crore bank has, right? 1,000 crore rupees taken by the Vijay Mallya, and he has not repaid the loan that he has taken from the bank, and he has flee the country. Okay, he has run away from the country. अब वो भाग गया देश से. तो ऐसे लोगों का नाम जानने का अधिकार हमें होना चाहिए, right? So that is what the Supreme Court of India has said, that the right to know means every citizen have a right to know, right? So that is why there should not be any amendment into the Right to Information Act that was enacted in 2005, right? So this is how we should understand, right? And the NPAs, now what is the NPA? So NPA is what? Like suppose you have gone to a bank, okay, and you have purchased a bike, okay, and that bike is worth of 5 lakh rupees, okay. The price of that bike is 5 lakh rupees, okay. So you have taken the loan, and the loan has been credited in your account. So 5 lakh rupees you have taken, and suppose the EMI is like somewhere like 8,000 rupees per month, okay. So if you have consequently you have not paid the EMI for 3 months, okay, so that means the 90 days. So if you have not paid your EMI like for 3 months or 90 days, okay, altogether, okay, in a way, okay, in a series you have not paid, right? So your loan that the bank has given to you will be put into the category of the non-performing assets. And now what is the meaning of asset? Means whatever the money bank has, okay, whatever the money bank has, it is like in the form of an asset. Okay, so that asset will be given to you by the bank in the form of loan. Okay, so you have given the 5, okay, you have given by the bank like 5 lakh rupees. So the asset you have taken from the bank, right? So now you have the 5 lakh rupees asset, okay, and that asset, on that asset you are liable to pay the interest every single month, and you are not paying that. So the asset that bank has given to you has stopped performing. So that is why it is called non-performing assets. Okay, so you can say an asset that has stopped performing or the non-performing assets, right, of the public sector bank. So every citizen of India has the right to know about all these kind of things, right? So this is what the Supreme Court also said that. So that is why the bill DPP. So this is the main contention. This is the most problematic point here in the DPP bill, DPDP bill, that there should not be any kind of string pulling into the RTI Act. Okay, so let us move ahead. So democracies means India, USA, United Kingdom. So these are called democracies. Okay, so India is also one of the democracies. Okay, and very vibrant democracies. Okay, so democracies routinely ensure public disclosure. Okay, democracies routinely ensure public disclosure of voter list. Okay, so like voter list you can see on the website with your name, with your address, okay, and other personal data like your sex, okay, means gender basically you can say, okay, male, female, or transgender or whatever, okay, so that it could be publicly scrutinized, okay, so that everyone can see that, okay, and it could be prevent, okay, electoral fraud. Means like if you have like suppose your name is Rohit, okay, and somebody else's name is also Rohit, and somebody starts making the fake ID cards, okay, then he can actually vote twice, thrice, or 4 times, right? So it will be actually converted as a fraud, okay, fraud in the electoral process, right? So this will hurt. So that is why, okay, so experience of the use of the RTI Act in India. So experience of the use of the RTI Act in India has shown that if people especially poor and the marginalized are to have any hope of obtaining the benefits of government schemes and welfare programs, they must have access to relevant granular information. Okay, so means in a nutshell, what is the meaning of these 3-4 lines is that the poor people and the marginalized people, means below poverty line people, those who go to the ration card shops, right? Okay, let me read this first, then I can make you understand better, right? So here, for instance, the public distribution system control order recognizes the need for putting up the details of ration card holders and records of ration shops in the public domain to enable the public scrutiny and social audits of the PDS. So here the meaning is that if somebody is very poor, okay, in India there are people who are so very poor, right? So those people are entitled to get the grains like wheat and rice on a very minimal price, okay, like 5 rupees per kg of wheat and 1 rupees per kg of rice, right? So for that, if these kind of schemes are being run by the government, okay, so these schemes are run for those. These schemes are being run by the government for the marginalized and the poor people, right? So if the person, if the person doesn't know about anything, right? So RTI, so that person can file the RTI and get to know about these schemes also, right? So that is why access. So that means the information access is very very required. So that means the RTI should not be actually tinkered with, right? So RTI should not be tinkered with. RTI में कोई change नहीं लाना चाहिए, right? So here the access to relevant and granular. So granular means बारीक, very very minute information can also be availed through the RTI, and the relevant, which is the real and the correct information, right? तो जैसे मान लीजिए सपोज फॉर इंस्टेंस, यहाँ पे फॉर इंस्टेंस और फॉर एग्जाम्पल वन एंड द सेम थिंग, ओके, द पब्लिक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम. सो पब्लिक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम, सो जो भी पब्लिक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम है उसके में भी वट एवर द रिकॉर्ड्स मीन्स उसके नेम, जो भी उसमें जितने लोग हैं उनके पास रिकॉर्ड्स है कि नहीं है, कार्ड होल्डर्स हैं, ओके, वट एवर द नेम इज मेंशन्ड, ओके, हाउ मच दे आर अर्निंग, सो ऑल दीज स्टेटस समझ. सो दिस इज योर पर्सनल इन्फॉर्मेशन बेसिकली, राइट? सो दैट इज ऑल्सो इन द पब्लिक डोमेन, राइट? सो गवर्नमेंट, सो इट इज द गवर्नमेंट्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, इट इज द गवर्नमेंट्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, इट इज द गवर्नमेंट्स, मतलब ये सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है, राइट, टू कीप योर डेटा सेफ, राइट? So now here, threat to transparency and accountability. So you should not really transparency, it's transparency and accountability. It's not accountability, it's accountability, right? So threat means khatra, the danger, okay? So now what kind of danger is there, what kind of threat is there towards the transparency and account? So यहाँ पे मतलब है means the accountability means somebody needs to be held responsible, right? Somebody needs to be held responsible for that. And transparency means pardarshita in Hindi mein, right? So the RTI Act includes a provision to harmonize people right to information, okay, people's right to information with their right to privacy through an exemption clause under section 81J, okay? So yahi jo section hai, okay, section 81J, this particular section of the RTI is about to be amended, ओके ये इसी की बात कह रही है. और ये जो आरटीआई है दैट इंक्लूड्स व्हाट इंक्लूड्स, सो हार्मोनाइज मींस गिव्स लाइक साइमल्टेनियसली, लाइक साथ साथ, अलोंग साइड, ओके, अलोंग साइड टू द पीपल. एक तरफ आपको राइट टू इन्फॉर्मेशन का भी एक्ट देता है, एक तरफ आपको अधिकार देता है राइट टू इन्फॉर्मेशन का, एंड ऑन द अदर हैंड इट गिव्स यू राइट द प्राइवेसी ऑल्सो. दैट मीन्स योर राइट्स ऑफ द प्राइवेसी वुड ऑल्सो नॉट बी इन्फ्रिंज, राइट? So this is what the meaning of this. So this particular thing is mentioned in section 81J, right? So this is where the government wants to make some amendment, right? So here the personal information is exempt from disclosure. So most important point with this particular article of the RTI Act is that the personal information is exempt. Exempt means छूट है, okay? Exempt means छूट है. Exempt from disclosure. Disclosure means to show, उसको रिवील कर देना, दिखा देना, बता देना, ठीक है, जाहिर कर देना, पब्लिक कर देना, ठीक है. So personal information is exempt from disclosure if it has no relationship to any public. So suppose if you are filing an RTI, okay, and that particular RTI means whatever the information that you are seeking or asking from that particular department, if it has no public, means if it has no relationship with any public activity, मतलब उसका जनता से कोई लेना देना नहीं है, तो कोई फायदा, तो वो आपको मना कर देंगे, okay? Then they will not entertain your IIT, means RTI, right? And then if you are asking about something else where there is no public interest is involved, right? If you are asking, suppose it's for yourself, like for fanciness, okay, let us file an RTI just for a fanciness, just for an entertainment, then also they will deny, right? And if the information sought is such that it would cause unwarranted invasion of the privacy and the information officer is satisfied that there is no larger public interest that justifies disclosure. So the meaning is that the officer that would be sitting, okay, at the place of the RTI where you'd be filing, so if that officer is satisfied that this person is asking something which is not at all required, so that person, so your RTI would be like rejected also, right? So on these three grounds. Now next, the enactment of a data protection law therefore does not require any amendment to the existing RTI law. So that means if everything is already here given, right? So this particular section actually talks about these three things. So if everything is already given, then the government should not even make further amendments into this, right? So this is also noted by the Justice AP Shah report on privacy. So Justice AP Shah has also actually given a report on the privacy that the public interest and the RTI should not be actually tinkered with, means there should not be any changes to be brought into the RTI, right? So here we have actually made the notes, like small little notes, means not recommended by the Justice AP Shah report, right? So these are things, and it seeks to amend the RTI, so that at the end we will be talking about that, because once you'll be able to understand, then you will have some idea, right? Okay, and suppose that once you are able to understand English and start preparing English, your chances will definitely improve, and you'll more confidently you will start studying for this particular examination, right? So here the DPDP, okay, Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2020, however, proposes amendments to the section 81 J to expand its purview and exempt all personal information products. Means here they are just trying to exempt all the personal information from this. Means they will not show any personal information. Okay, they will be bringing changes into this one. Okay, so this is the most important change that they want to bring in. So here the contestation with the DPDP bill is the RTI bill. Okay, and RTI is what? RTI is section 81J. All right. So here this threatens the very foundation of the transparency and accountability regime in the country. So it means it is very dangerous. Okay, it is going to be very disturbing that the transparency, because if you really want to know any information, okay, so earlier that was available. Okay, means right now until this bill comes into the picture, okay, means all the kind of whatever we used to ask, okay, those kind of things were available, but now they will not be available. So transparency means, where is the transparency now? Okay, kahan पारदर्शिता hai? And accountability regime. So if something is happening wrong, so at least we can file an RTI and we can get the information, and then we can counter that, okay, something that is happening wrong, right, on the basis of the data or the report that will be received in the form of the RTI, right? So who will be held responsible for that, right? Nobody, right? So that is what, this is the most important point in this, right? A primary objective of any data protection law is to curtail the misuse of personal data. So the main objective means, primary means main objective or the goal of any data protection bill, okay, any data protection bill or law is to stop the misuse of the personal data, okay, including for financial fraud. Okay, means there should not be any financial, like for example, suppose you are making any kind of transactions on Facebook. Suppose you are ordering something on the Amazon, okay, and you have used your ATM cards, all these numbers, okay, and suddenly what happens, that all the data gets leaked, okay, that you have used over, and the amount from your account, okay, will get automatically deducted, and you will be having no idea that where my money has gone, right? So just to prevent the financial frauds also, okay, given that the government is the biggest data repository, means government has huge amount of data, okay, and effective data protection law must not give wide discretionary power to the government. So that means government should not, मतलब discretionary means बिल्कुल मनमाने तरीके से एकदम, मतलब इतनी सारी powers नहीं देनी चाहिए government को, right? So government, like, discretionary powers should not be given to the government, right? Should not, मतलब चाहिए नहीं चाहिए, should not be given to the government, okay? So DPDP bill 2022 unfortunately empowers the executive to draft rules and notifications on a vast range of issues, right? So DPDP bill, actually this gives a huge powers, or here the meaning of the executive is the government, okay, is the political executive, means the government, okay, means it gives the government a huge power to make rules, regulations, okay. So actually that should not have happened, right? So for instance, or for example, the central government can exempt any government, means any state government, okay. So central government means the government which is at the center, that is the central government, okay, that is the Modi Sarkar, you can, for example, right? So central government and any government, okay, so it can exempt, मतलब ये छूट दे सकती है किसी भी सरकार को, or even to the private sector entity. So suppose like the Geo, okay, so Geo is favorite to actually do the, we can say, the current regime, right? So it can give some kind of exemptions, कुछ छूट दे सकते हैं कि हाँ, you can use this data and all that, something like that, okay. So from the application means apply करेंगे जिस rule को, मतलब rules के जिस भी provision को apply करेंगे उससे इनको छूट दे सकते हैं. Merely just issuing an institution, मतलब just only issuing an एक small some notification they'll have to issue, and they would be able to exempt certain actually the government in the states and the any private sector entity also, right? So this would potentially allow the government to arbitrarily exempt its cronies. So cronies means friend, okay. So so you can understand who is the friend of the government, right? So means the big business guys give actually gonna get a lot of benefit out of this if the government has huge powers, or even amend to the RTI and not allowing the disclosure of the all the performance, means all the personal informations, right? So government bodies, so जो भी government bodies हैं, like जैसे आपकी ये आधार वाली हो गई, UIDAI, यूनिक आइडेंटिफिकेशन अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया, राइट? सो इनको सबको बहुत अपने मनमाने ढंग से, arbitrarily means मनमाने ढंग से, means without any rules and regulations, it just completely depends on the whims and fancies of the government, that whomsoever it really wants to actually grant the exemptions they can grant, right? So they don't have to follow any rule, right? So resulting in immense violation of the citizens' privacy. So actually our data is at stake, right? So our data means the data that belongs to us, and that is the personal information regarding every citizen. So that becomes like very violative if the government has a lot of power in this particular bill, okay. So on the other hand, means the next, or on the other hand, small non-governmental organizations, means small NGOs, छोटे NGOs, research organizations, and associations of the persons and opposition parties, okay, that the government chooses not to include in the notification, would have to set up systems to comply with the stringent obligations of a data fiduciary. Okay, so it will become the responsibility now of all these kind of actors, okay, from here to here. Okay, so they would be like, they have to follow the law very, very stringently, very, very strictly. Okay, they'll have to comply with the stringent obligations, right? So this is what the meaning of this. So now here actually the suggestions are there, that what kind of suggestions to be made. Okay, so here author trying to suggest some of the measures with respect to the DPDP bill. Okay, so here is that, like, further to meet its objective of protecting personal data, it is critical that the oversight body set up under the legislation be adequately independent. So here the suggestion by the author is that there has to be some oversight body. Okay, there has to be some oversight body. Okay, so oversight body is the name of any body. Okay, so that is mentioned in the DPDP bill, and the author is suggesting that it has to be adequately, it should be adequately independent. Okay, adequately independent means it should be sufficiently independent, means there should not be, actually the pressure from the government side, right? It should be independent so that it can take the actions if any violations of happening by the law agencies. Okay, so that is what is written, to act on violations of the law by the government. And so if any government agency, okay, if any government department basically does wrong thing, so this particular oversight body should have adequate or sufficient rights, okay, and independent of the government, to take the actions if any violations is happening by the law agencies of the government, right? So this is what the meaning. So that means this is the one suggestion, that oversight body should be created. Okay, and it should be adequately independent. Okay, the draft bill does not even make a pretense of ensuring autonomy of the data protection board. So you can say oversight body or data protection board, one and the same thing. All right. Okay, so actually the government should ensure the autonomy of that. So same thing is just repeated. Okay, the institution responsible for in enforcement of provisions of the law. Okay, so this will be responsible. This data protection board will be responsible. This will be an institution. Okay, like the CBI is an institution, IB is an institution. So data protection board will also be an institution. Okay, so that will be responsible. That will be responsible for what? That will be responsible for the enforcement of provisions of the law. Means whatever the provisions जो भी उसके अंदर लिखा होगा 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 points. Okay, so those provisions of the law, okay, of the DPDP law, so it will enforce, it will help that, okay, this should be taking the ground, it should get implemented. Okay, so the central government is empowered to determine मतलब निर्धारित करना, determine. Okay, the central government means Modi Sarkar, means right now the current regime. Okay, the central government is empowered means बहुत ज़्यादा सशक्त कर दिया गया है, सरकार को इतनी शक्तियां हैं. The central government is empowered to determine the strength and composition of the board. Okay, to strength means कितने लोग होंगे, how many people would be there in the board, that will be decided by the government. And composition means who all will be, means the law minister could be, and the finance minister would be, or the home minister could be there. Okay, or it would be headed by the prime minister or some of IAS officers, the senior IAS officers, the secretary, some intellectual person, who all will be there, that will also be decided by the government. So that means the composition will also be decided by the government. How many numbers should be there, so that means the strength should also be decided by the government in the board, right? As well as the process of selection and how all these people would be selected, those who will be joining this data protection board, how the selection of those people will happen, right? So that process will also be decided by the government. And how the chairperson will be removed from his post, that will also be decided by the governments. And the other member of the board, how they are going to be removed. Okay, so that will also be decided by the government. And the chief executive, the chief means the person who will head this board, okay, the data protection board. So this chief executive responsible for managing the board is to be appointed by the government. So the person who is, like, suppose the CEO of the data protection board will also be appointed by the government, right? Will also be appointed by the government. Okay, giving it direct control over the institution. So that means the government will be directly controlling this institution, right? So how could it have the autonomy, right? How could it have the autonomy, right? So the creation of a totally government controlled data protection board. So this particular board, if it gets created, it will be totally government controlled data protection board, right? So that will be empowered, means उसको इतनी शक्तियां दी जाएंगी. Empowered to impose means फाइन लगा सके, फाइन up to 500 crore, 500 रुपए का, 500 करोड़ रुपए का फाइन लगा सकते हैं. Is bound to raise serious apprehensions, means बहुत ज्यादा वरीज, चिंता, ठीक है ना, सीरियस, बहुत ही गंभीर चिंताएं, और रेज मतलब बढ़ा देता है, बाउंड टू मतलब पक्का से पक्का बढ़ाएगा अगर इस तरीके के रूल्स आएंगे, ठीक है. सो ऑफ इट बिकमिंग अनदर केज्ड पैरेट. सो लाइक द सीबीआई इज ऑफन रिफर्ड एज द केज्ड पैरेट, ओके, बिकॉज द गवर्नमेंट यूजेस इट एज इट इज सेड मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम allegedly, right? So it is going to be one of the caged parrots again, like the CBI. Okay, so it means that it will be working on the whims and fancies or the orders of the government. Okay, so open to misuse by the executive. So executive means here the government. Okay, so open to misuse means मतलब misuse किया जा सकता है खुलेआम सरकार के द्वारा, to target the political opposition. जितने भी opposition parties हैं उनको अगर उन्होंने क्रिटिसाइज किया गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज को तो इट कैन बी यूज्ड अगेंस्ट देम, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाई देयर हैज टू बी सम ऑटोनॉमी, ओके, ऑटोनॉमी, दैट मींस इट मींस ऑल द पावर शुड नॉट बी गिवन to the government only, means most of the power should also be given to, or like some of the powers to be given to the opposition parties also, right? So that they could also have a stake, okay, so that there could be balance could be maintained, right? So these concerns need to be urgently addressed before the DPDP bill is enacted, okay? So means before it becomes law, okay, before this DPDP bill is becoming the law, we should be able to solve all these kind of issues that are there, okay, that autonomy issue and all these kind of things, and RTI changes or amendment, or like in this section 8(1)(j), that kind of things, okay? So here, the unfortunately, I think everybody must be knowing the meaning of unfortunately, okay, given the manner in which bills are being passed in the parliament, okay, unfortunately, given the manner in which the bills are being passed in the parliament without any debate, means there is no debate happening in the parliament to pass any bill, or the discussion is also not happening in the parliament, okay, to pass that bill, the citizens of this country might end up with a law that empowers the central government while taking away people's democratic right to seek information and use it to hold the powerful to account. So the meaning of this particular paragraph is that, means the way this particular bill is about to be passed from the parliament by the executive is that this particular bill is empowering the government itself and not the people of the country, right? So this is what the meaning of this particular editorial, right? So now, since we have read it and understood it, right? So if you have understood like 5, 10%, 20, 30, see, initially when you are changing, it is very, very hard, right? But this is the safest path. Okay, instead of going and sitting for 6 months onto dharna, if you give 6 months to change your medium, definitely you'll be able to change the medium, and you will have a highway for yourself to run, and will help yourself to even crack the examination and save your future, your finances, your money, the sacrifices that you are making to clear this examination. You are staying out of your home, right? So every single thing that you guys are doing, right? So make a sincere decision, be very practical, think about yourself only, be very, very selfish while you are preparing for the examination. Once you clear the examination, then start working for people, but that time will only come when you will be able to clear the examination. Then only you will have the opportunity to serve the people of your country, right? But if you are not able to clear the examination, you can imagine how your life is going to be, right? So now here we have taken some of the notes, right? So here now, since you have understood this story, okay, so if English medium students is watching, so that is also perfect, right? You can just start speaking, and the number is also, means a WhatsApp number is also given. You can write in the form of the answers. I will evaluate and send it back to you, and you can try to speak also, record in the form of the voice notes also, send it on the WhatsApp number that is given, right? So here the question, let us discuss a bit, and then we're going to be closing this video, okay? So discuss the digital personal data protection bill, keeping in mind the threat to transparency and accountability. So now I think you can understand, you can make some sense that transparency and accountability is about what? The RTI, okay, RTI bill, okay? So that section 8 is about to be, section 8 clause 1(j), okay, is about to be amended by the government, okay? So where it will happen that all the personal details will be completely debarred from the disclosure. Okay, so empowerment of the central government. So that means it is empowering the central government, right? It is just snatching away the rights that people have under the RTI. While like the same thing, right? While the people's democratic rights to seek information, right? So this is the question that I have made, right? And these are the points that I have taken. So in the form of the introduction, how you should write. This bill is being prepared by. ये बिल प्रिपेयर किया जा रहा है by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. तो सबसे पहले आप इंट्रोडक्शन में ये बताएंगे कि the first thing that you'll have to tell like this, okay? Second thing is that it deals with the industry and big tech companies. Means it is not asking to the people or not the parliamentarian. It is just consulting with the big companies like Amazon, Flipkart, okay, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, okay, and the industries like the Geo or the Reliance industry and the big industries which are involved into this, right? Where the data is actually enforced, okay, and infringes upon the fundamental rights. So this particular actually bill is infringing, means it is just hovering around the fundamental rights, but it is just covering some of the rights. And what are those rights? The right to information, okay, because the government seeks to bring some of the changes into the RTI bill, okay, and the right to privacy, okay, and the right to privacy. So that is also getting to be a little bit curtailed on this, okay. So it seeks, so how you would be writing this? So this is the introduction, okay. So now here it is going to be the main word. So it seeks to amend, आप यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं, it seeks to amend the Right to Information Act, okay, section 8(1)(j), right, section 8(1)(j), all right, and not recommended by. So actually these kind of amendments are not recommended by the Justice AP Shah report on the privacy, okay. So that means Justice AP Shah committee that was there, which was on the privacy, that did not actually suggested to bring any changes into the RTI, all right. So now the Supreme Court of India, we have to write this also, because these are the points when we want to write that actually looks actually the answer of the UPSC aspirant, right? The Supreme Court of India has held that the citizens have a right to know, right? So this we can mention here, okay, that every citizen of this country has a right to know also. So that means RTI is must. So when RTI is must, even the Supreme Court is upholding the validity of the RTI. So that means there should not be any changes to be brought in into the RTI section 81J, as it is also accompanied by the support of the Justice AP Shea committee, right? That there should not be any change, right? So willful defaulters, and we can know about the willful defaulters. I told you about that, story about Vijay Mallya, Mehul Choksi, Nirav Modi, all these guys. They have left the country. They have flee the country basically, right? Details of the non-performing ads. I have stated you, and a story of the bank, okay, where you have taken the loan and you have purchased a bike. You are not giving the installments back for the 3 months, so 90 days. So that particular asset will start non-performing, right? So it will become non-performing asset, right? Now here the solution how you can get oversight body means there has to be one oversight body that needs to be set up by the government, okay, and it should be independent of the government, right? So what would happen if it would be independent? So it will be ensuring the autonomy of the data protection board also, right? The central government is empowered to determine the strength, means these kind of things should not be there, right? Strength and the composition of the board, okay. It should not be totally controlled body of the, okay, it should not be totally controlled by the government of India also, right? Because it can enforce like 500 crore rupees fines also. So it will be a big apprehensions for the opposition parties also, small NGOs also, because they can sometimes critically speak about the government, right? So this is where it is written, right? So here at the end you can write it empowers the central government basically, while taking away the people's democratic right to seek information, autonomy of the data protection board, right? So this is what, and you can write like simple you can start. So those who have not written, those who are just watching it for the first time, they can just start writing this. So whenever you are reading anything, understand the utility of it, don't waste your time unnecessarily, right? So if you have liked this video, do share it among all the Hindi medium aspirants so that they can also listen more and more into English, and the chances of the civil services aspirants of Hindi medium, right, they can be actually enhanced meaningful, right? So see you in the next video. Till then, do take a very good care of yourselves. Bye bye.